Kharkiv, one of Ukraine's largest cities, was struck by a massive Russian drone attack overnight, with more than a dozen Iranian-made Shahed drones hitting residential areas. Local authorities confirmed that ordinary residential buildings were damaged, leaving at least 8 people wounded. Emergency teams are working to extinguish fires and assist the injured as the city reels from the latest assault in a war now stretching into its 4th year. The attack, which began late on March 26th and continued into the early hours of March 27th, saw multiple explosions rock Kharkiv, a city of over 1 million people located just 30 kilometers from the Russian border. Ukrainian air defenses managed to intercept several drones, but the barrage overwhelmed parts of the system, allowing significant damage to civilian infrastructure. The wounded include residents caught in the strikes, with the 12-year-old girl among those receiving urgent medical attention. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky addressed the attack in a statement on X, saying,
"Ordinary Ukrainian cities, Kharkiv, Sumy, Dnipro, ordinary life and Russian strikes that should never have happened. Every day in Ukraine is marked by large-scale attacks with strike drones, mostly Shaheds. It was Iran that taught Russia how to produce such drones. Today, more than a dozen drones have already hit our Kharkiv, one of the largest cities in Ukraine. Ordinary residential buildings have been damaged, and so far 8 people have been wounded, including a 12-year-old girl. No country should have to go through this." And against this backdrop, speaking about easing pressure on Russia, lifting sanctions and so on, is definitely inappropriate and unhelpful. Russia kills people every day and drags out this war.
The Shahed drones, known for their low cost and long range, have become a staple of Russia's aerial campaign against Ukraine, with production techniques reportedly shared by Iran. Russia has denied Zelensky's claims of civilians being deliberately targeted.
As we have repeatedly repeated, the Russian aerospace forces strike only at those objects that are related to the military potential of the Kiev regime. Therefore, civilians in Ukraine as a rule suffer either from the wreckage of downed missiles and drones, since the air defense of Ukraine, in violation of the norms of IHL, is deployed in residential areas of Ukrainian cities, or from the fall of anti-aircraft missiles, which they then try to pass off as the consequences of Russian strikes. The Kyiv regime is not very convincing, because the Ukrainians themselves, despite the strictest ban on the punitive bodies of the Zelensky regime, record and publish arrivals on the network, and thus refute the propaganda fabrications of their authorities.
This latest strike follows a pattern of intensified attacks on Kharkiv, including a drone assault on March 13th. 14 that damaged a hospital in the region, wounding an emergency worker. Despite a Ukrainian counteroffensive in 2022 that pushed Russian forces back from much of Kharkiv Oblast, the city remains vulnerable to such long-range strikes. The assault comes amid ongoing US-brokered ceasefire talks, with Ukraine agreeing to a 30-day pause on energy target strikes earlier this month. However, Russia's continued attacks, including this latest barrage, have cast doubt on Moscow's commitment to de-escalation. Zelensky's call for sustained pressure on Russia reflects growing frustration with the pace of diplomacy as civilian casualties mount. The international response remains pending, but the attack underscores the urgent need for effective measures to protect